indeed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good walkthrough Wednesday, Birds fans. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald here to talk Philadelphia Eagles football with you for the next 2 hours. We appreciate you streaming in with us. All right, we put the 49er beat down in the rearview mirror. I'm not a fan of.
I extended overreaction Monday because of the horror of the loss, but it's time to turn the page.
I would tend to agree, and I do appreciate the term turn the page. A couple phrases, just bother me. The whole got to give them flowers, I think, is one of the dumbest phrases that has come into our lexicon over the last however many decades. The other new one is the idea when you need to, quote unquote, move on, turn a page, to flush it.
Flush it?
No.
Jalen brought up flush it to Philadelphia.
Yeah. I can do without that, as a matter of fact. I think we all know what we're talking about, but they're just, in my opinion, better way to say it. Turn the page and move on. Another one, burn the tape. You're sometime going to need to go
digital now. You can't burn the tape.
Right. No, hit delete. No, don't hit delete. Just put it in a different file that you can get back to at a later date. Don't lose it, but just put it aside. There's another good one. Put it aside. Back burner. I've always liked flush it. I don't necessarily need. But we're close to that. We can't do it just yet because yesterday the coordinators did get a chance to speak. I didn't see it live, but I saw tapings of both of the two guys. Here's the first question I'll ask you, John, because they both touched on some interesting things and necessary things. Who do you think was more put off? Not by the fact that they were obligated to talk to you guys, members of the media, but just with the way things went in the game, as poorly as they did on Sunday. Who do you think was more put off, Johnson or Desai?
Who was more put off? From the perspective, they're both good guys, so they both know they have to do it. So that's not a big deal. I think Sean is more put off, but I don't think he showed it, if that makes sense.
Right. Neither one of them showed it through the way that they spoke, but they said what they said, taking their words into consideration. Who was more put off?
Oh, then Sean. Yeah, Sean. Well, wait. I'm already confused. Who was more put off by their words? Probably Brian. Sean was Mr. Andy Reid. I think he said got to get better, some form of better 23 times. Martin, our buddy Martin Frank,
out of running tally, really?
Yeah, counted them up.
Martin.
23 times, I think he said it. So, it's very off-putting for the fan base, as we know. But that's what he is. That's what he always is. So I believe me, he behind the scenes, he's upset about how things went. But that's the type of coach he is. I always talk about Shane Steichen. I wish people got to see Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen on the podium, awful. Just off it, phenomenal. There could not be a bigger difference. So I think a lot of people, and they don't get to see it. So I get it. I mean, they only get to see one thing. And they say, well, this guy doesn't care, and this guy, and it's not that, but yeah, on the podium, yeah, it was Andy Reid at his height. We got to get better. We got to get better. We got to get better. I got to put people in better positions. Better.
And it's funny because I asked you the question is who was more put off. I was more put off by Brian Johnson than I was Sean Desai, even though Sean Desai did say it's on me. We need to be better, blah, blah, and took a whole bunch of bullets. I thought that Brian Johnson almost tried to dodge the bullets, that somehow it wasn't as bad as it was. And yeah, if you're comparing the offense to the defense solely from Sunday, the defense was worse than the offense, and therefore Sean Desai should take more bullets because his unit played more poorly than the offensive unit did. But the offensive unit didn't get it done either. I got questions about the offense and what they did or didn't do on Sunday. And Brian Johnson, maybe I wanted a little more put off by Brian Johnson yesterday. The one thing he did address was the running game. And they did not run the ball effectively at all on this past Sunday. And we get to an aspect of their running game that was commented on by an NFL Network commenter last night. Just much foolishness. He did say they have to be more patient. They have to stick with it. They can't get away from it the way that they did. No one specifically asked him, though, why Kenny Gainwell got more reps than DeAndre Swift. And I was hoping that was going to be the case. I'm still perplexed by that, still perturbed by that, as a matter of fact. And John, if you remember yesterday, I said, I'm going to give you an assignment, McMullen. You got to check something for me. And once the show ended, I said, that's not fair. You can't, you're giving John assignment. You guys are partners. You can't do that. So I did it myself. I went back and watched the entire tape again, specifically on offense for one thing. You told me yesterday that Kenny Gainwell is the better pass protector of the two, and that might be why.
From the Eagles' perspective.
From the Eagles' perspective. The Eagles believe he's a better pass protector. He was on the field for 39 snaps on Sunday. DeAndre Swift only 30. And again, as I said yesterday, I don't see any world in which Kenny Gainwell should play more snaps than DeAndre Swift. That's my evaluation. Of those 39 plays that Kenny Gainwell was on the team, how many do you think he pass protected, John?
Probably 3 to 5. 3 to 5.
Would you believe less?
Yeah, I would believe less. The numbers generally are 5 to 6 per game. When you compile both of them,
right?
So throughout the season, you're talking about 5 to 6 per game. Yeah, you and I had this discussion. Look, I'll put it in this way. How many times do you think Dallas got it? Is pass protection important for a tight end?
It depends on the way you run your offense. There are some tight ends where, yeah, it's a big part of their game. Others not. You depend on the offense you want to run and the type of player you have.
But it's also, Dallas is a great blocker, so he's a good example. But the Eagles, and he's very important when it comes to the running game, when it comes to blocking. But he's not asked to pass block as much these days. Ironically, he was asked to pass block more when Zach Ertz was here, and that,
of course, sure,
we've had that discussion. But the Eagles don't use their tight ends to pass block all that much because of the way they run their offense. Now, Kyle Shanahan, different, play action offense. He gets killed, last year. Oh, why do you have a backup tight end? How many times you hear that blocking Hassan Reddick? That's his offense. He's trying to pull the defense. He's trying to run play action. It's their job, the backup tight end. On that particular play, we had Tommy Lawler on. and he's right. That's the term coaches use. You know, it's not about beating Hassan Reddick as a backup tight end. It's about chipping him. It's about slowing him down. It's about losing slowly just to pull the defense so you have an advantage down the field on the play action. Look at it from this perspective, Jody. Now that Derek Barnett is gone, your favorite player is Quez Watkins, right? Quez Watkins, when Dallas Goedert went down last season, got 4 to 5 targets per game. That's it. It could be a big one like it was in the Super Bowl, and you better take advantage of it. Look at Seattle against Dallas last week, the running back. He had a chance as he was sliding across. If he gets even a modicum of Micah Parsons, DK Metcalf is open down the field. We're having a different conversation. Seattle, Dallas. Dallas might not even have a 14-game winning streak. They might be 13 out of 14. When you have 5 opportunities to impact a game, as Kenny Gainwell, DeAndre Swift do, you can lose a game. You can win a game. You can lose a game. You can do nothing in a game. They could mean nothing. But my point is, I had a very wise, I've said this before on the show, I had a very wise debate teacher back in the day who said, you know, if you don't accept a premise, don't debate it. And I've talked to dozens of offensive coaches in the NFL over the years, Jody. Not one of them is going to say pass protection isn't important for a running back. Not one. And I mean, not one. So to think the Eagles are different than everybody else, to think because you're only getting 5, 7, maybe 10 on San Francisco. And remember, San Francisco, by the way, Christian McCaffrey's not a good pass blocker. But San Francisco has Kyle Juszczyk. They address it. They address it because they know they need it for specific instances. And they have a very good pass blocker. Just they do it in a different way. Not one, Jody, not one will say, oh, that's not important. Oh, you know what they do lament? And they're wrong about this, by the way. They'll always say, man, guys come in the league, they don't know what they're doing in pass protection. They say it about quarterbacks as well. They can't. It's not a college coach's job. A college coach's job is to win games at the college level. That's their job, not to prepare players for you. So I often criticize coaches who say they get running backs who can't pass protect. It's your job. Get them up to speed. Yeah, they start and they stink, but you got to get them up to speed. The Eagles think Kenny Gainwell, your better argument would be DeAndre Swift is a better pass protector than Kenny Gainwell. They think the opposite. I don't think there's that much of a difference. That's an argument I'll listen to. An argument that pass protection isn't important for a running back, that's just wrong, Joe.
Here's what I said yesterday, and I'll repeat it again today. See if it gets through. They don't put an importance on it as per their actions. If you line up 32 coaches and you ask them, is pass protection important? I'll buy it that 32 out of 32 are going to say yes. That doesn't surprise me in the least. And then you actually have the game and you ask them to do what you think is important. And they asked Kenny Gainwell to block once in 39 snaps. Once. So if, as you suggested yesterday, part of the reason they may play Kenny Gainwell on a given Sunday more than DeAndre Swift is because they believe he's a better pass blocker, well, then why don't you ask him to pass block? 39 plays, he pass blocked once. So they can say it's important. They can stand up and tell the world pass blocking for a running back is important. Well, then you got to ask him to do it more than once in 39 snaps. Those are facts after the fact that you can analyze. What you say in advance is one thing. I'll look at the tape afterwards and go, yeah, but you didn't ask him to do it. If that's his strength, if that's the reason why you were playing him more than Swift, it doesn't add up. You did what you did and you didn't do it. And oh, by the way, Swift averages more yards per carry. Swift has more yards receiving. Swift has more yards per reception. There isn't the stat that Gainwell has been better than Swift in. And yet in this game, they decided
that again, that's the better argument. You know who the best pass blockers in the NFL are when it comes to picking up the blitz? And ironically, we're going to see one of them this weekend. Tony Pollard's very good at it. Josh Jacobs is very good at it. They're the two best. Well,
then for the
75 pass protections on the season, both 75 for Pollard, 75 for Jacobs through about 12 games. Eagles are at, again, they split it. So they're at 60 something. They're about 10 behind. Again, if Quez Watkins drops a pass in the Super Bowl, that's a big fucking deal. But he only gets 5 opportunities, but that's a big fucking deal. But Kenny Gainwell misses a block, doesn't block, that's not a big deal. Dallas Goedert misses a block, that's not a big deal. Why is it not a big deal? I'm saying coaches will, and now you say you're looking after the game. Nick Sirianni doesn't know what San Francisco is going to do. Are they going to blitz? Are they going to zero blitz? Are they going to overload?
Well, that was apparent by the way the game played itself out.
Exactly.
That's kind of Nick Sirianni's job is to be able to forecast it ahead of time. And when you don't forecast well, you get your ass kicked.
Now, that's the games have personalities. When you're behind by 3 scores, and there's plenty to criticize Nick Sirianni about. Like, why is Jalen Hurts in the game? Why do you even want DeAndre Swift in the game? That's another thing. You know, he's played 12 games, DeAndre Swift, and he's already at a career high in rushing attempts. And you want to give him garbage time touches?
But I can't accept that either, because if you're going to start to worry about the potential of someone getting hurt, why are your 2 defensive end playing well over what they usually play per game?
That's a good
question. You can't
question.
have it both ways. You can't go, well, we got it. We can't overtax him because of he's never done it before and he could get hurt and we kind of need him.
No,
okay, if that's the way you're going to coach, that's fine. But then why are you playing Swift and Son Reddick 70% of the snaps of the game? Can't be both.
Well, it can't be both in both ways. You can't say because Kenny Gainwell didn't get a lot of pass. Again, we're at 12 games now. So the sample size is the sample size of what it is. And it's typically going to be, for the Eagles, it's going to be 4 to 5 times a game where running backs are going to be asked to pick up a blitz. And it could be Gainwell, it could be Swift. However, it's more likely on third down. So, especially on third down and long. This is the way the NFL works. And maybe they should change. And maybe you should debate them to change. But you know, when you're third and long, it's most likely we're going to face a blitz. And by the way, when you're facing Brian Flores or Wink Martindale or Steve Spagnuolo, it's going to be a bigger issue than it is when you're facing the San Francisco 49ers who can get home with 4 normally. And, oh, by the way, have a 3-score lead. So they're not blitzing in that situation. So games have personalities. Situations have personalities, but to say again, I can't accept the premise that pass protection is not important for running backs. Is it as important for running? No. Is it like Zach Pascal? People laugh at Nick Sirianni when he said Zach Pascal can block, and people would laugh at Chip Kelly and say when he would say Riley Cooper can block. Is it as important as receiving for receivers? Of course not, but it's important. It's important. And you can lose a game, as Seattle proved, when you don't pick up a blitz in a key situation. You can lose a game. It happens every week.
It wasn't even a blitz. We're talking about Michael Parsons.
Yeah, but why is it? But you're arguing a point and you're saying because of this game.
You just, John, I didn't bring up the Seattle-Dallas game. You did. I just responded to what you said.
I'm saying,
you said if the running back missed the blitz. I'm telling you it wasn't a blitz. It was Michael Parsons.
But you're saying it's not important because in this game, it's not important. That's going to move forward.
John, I never said it's not important. I said in my estimate,
you can run it back. You said it was not important.
Yeah, please feel free. If Zander can rack
everyone,
it up. Here's what I will say. I'll repeat what
show.
I said yesterday.
Yes.
I said that of all the things you take into consideration as to why you're playing a given player more snaps than another player, pass protection is down on the list. If everything on the list is important, if it all, I don't think it's 33%, 33%, 33%. There's a sliding scale of importance, and I would say pass protection is less than ability to actually break a tackle and make a chunk play and the like. It's not as important. That's what I said. It's not as important. If I said it, I'll apologize for it. I don't believe I said it, that pass protection isn't important. I know it's important, but it's not as important as other aspects of the running game.
Now
and I'd like to know what aspect of the running game that Kenny Gainwell has been better than DeAndre Swift in this year.
Now we have no problem. So if you didn't say that, I'll give you homework. If you didn't say that yesterday, we have no problem. Of course, you're not going to hear me say pass protection is more important for a running back than running the football. Yeah, I'm saying, and by the way, you're talking about Brian answered the question. So, if you have the transcript, you can go listen to Brian's answer with Kenny Gainwell. And he gave the same answer Nick Sirianni gave. And I said he would. They like him in pass protection. And by the way, that's the better argument. He's not that good.
Can I stop you here? I know I would love to have the coach here to be able to ask him. This follow-up didn't come up. If you like him in pass protection, 39 snaps he was on the field, why did you only have him pass protect one play? Which, by the way, it was the second play of the game. The only time he stayed in to pass protect was the second play of the game. And then you're going to give that answer afterwards that one of the reasons you played Gainwell more than you did Swift was because of pass protection. And you only asked him to pass protect 1 out of 39 plays. Sorry, that math doesn't work.
There are no designed pass protections for running backs. A coach doesn't come into the game and say, I'm going to have the running back pass block 10 times. They're picking up blitzes. Chips don't get, they're not getting graded by Pro Football Focus. Maybe once in a blue moon, you have a max protection where you keep everybody in.
When I had one of those on Sunday.
And maybe in a blue moon, the Eagles obviously don't do it. The Eagles use more empty sets than anybody else. There are no design protections for running backs. They are generally picking up a blitz. It is, unless you can have Bill Belichick's best spies in a room that says, hey, we're going to blitz on play number 35 on defense.
So here would be my question to Brian Johnson, and I'm going to ask you to answer it because we don't have Brian Johnson here with us. If, as you stated earlier, the 49ers don't blitz a lot. They don't think they need to blitz a lot. They believe they can get home with their front four. If part of the reason that you're putting Kenny Gainwell onto the field is because in case he needs to pick up a blitz and you think he's better at it than DeAndre Swift, but you don't think that the 49ers are going to blitz all that often, why would you put Kenny Gainwell out there more just in case they blitz?
It's a philosophy. He's the third down back and the 2-minute back and the 4-minute back because of his abilities. So when they're in, and again, you're ignoring the personality of the game. They're passing the ball consistently. They become one-dimensional because they're losing.
All right.
So they have their pass back, their third down back, their hurry up back in the game because that's his role. So here's Brian's quote on Kenny Gainwell. How much better has Kenny Gainwell gotten in that area? Pass protection. I didn't ask the question, so blame Ruben. Ruben asked the question. He's improved a bunch in terms of his awareness and his understanding of pass protection. He's done a great job in that for us all year. It's something that he's continued to grow in since 2021 when he first got here. There's been plenty of times throughout the course of his career and particularly this season where he's done some amazing things in protection that really don't show up on the stat sheet. You go back to the Rams game or different games, Kansas City or wherever we played, and he's made some big plays and he's allowed us to extend, that have allowed us to convert some big downs throughout the course of the year. It was pretty, might have been his most extensive, Brian helping me out, might have been his most extensive answer in the press conference. Now, if you want to argue with Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson that he's not good at that particular job, or he's not better at that particular job than DeAndre Swift, how about it? No. I think that's a legitimate
I'm not going to do that.
I
take him at his word on that. Here's what, and you simplified, did a nice job of it, John. They're 2-minute back, they're 4-minute back, they're third down back. The whole pie, not just pass, not putting a percentage of importance on pass blocking as compared to catching the ball out of the backfield, as compared to running and breaking a play and actually getting a chunk out of it. The whole thing, you throw it all into the kit and caboodle. I don't see where Kenny Gainwell is better than DeAndre Swift at any of it. Even if you give him pass protection, because sounds like the coach is pretty locked in that he's this very good pass protector. I haven't gone through the film of every single game, so I got to take the coach's word at it. Why is he there late game, 2-minute? If you fall behind, the Eagles haven't fallen. Well, they actually have fallen behind way too often by too many points. I'm rethinking the fact that he's my 2-minute back. I want DeAndre Swift as my 2-minute back because I think he's got a chance to make a bigger play.
Well, like I said, to me, that's a better argument. That's a legitimate argument because I don't necessarily disagree with that. Now, the one issue where I would come in with DeAndre again is, and that's a part of it as well, is the, we're not talking about a guy who can handle 300 touches. So at some point, while yes, you can't legislate injuries, you also don't want to be overtly obtuse about it and say, well, the guy's already at a career high number of rushing attempts. He'll break his career high in touches this week. The 1 year, and the only reason he hasn't broken it yet is because the 1 year Detroit, he caught a whole bunch of balls, over 60. I think he's 10 below his career number in touches. And we're, this will be game 13. So you got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And plus, the Eagles want to play deep into the playoffs. They want to get 3 games in the playoffs as well. So I think you got to be aware of not overusing DeAndre Swift. So they were always going to be a back by committee. Even when they started, they were always, and it was Kenny as number 1. They were always going to be a back by committee because they don't have an old school Chuck Foreman 3-down running back who's going to touch it 400 times. I mean, these guys will evaporate if you use them that much.
And you know what I'm going to say. We got to get to Mike Gill here in a second. Can't have it both ways. You can't tell me we really got to digest and know the numbers and not overuse a guy and reserve for and then try the 2 defensive end out there as often as you do. You can't. Can't do it both ways. You can't say we're going to look at the big picture and we're going to be protective. We can't, but then you're running the 2 defensive ends who are star players on your team, more important than either of the 2 running backs, and they're on a pace. You talk about on a pace to play more snaps and they've ever played more touches than ever played before. And again, last week, Nolan Smith, 11 snaps. Derek Barnett, with about 3 walkthroughs under his belt, played more snaps for the Texans last week than Nolan Smith did here in Philadelphia. So either you have an eye on the big picture and you're going to manage every player on your team snaps, or you don't. Or you say, we're all in. We got to win this week. It's the 49ers. My God, we got to throw caution to the wind. We got to have our best players on the field.
Well, there's rotational positions and there aren't rotational positions. Now, running back generally in the modern game has become a rotational position. Edge rusher in Philadelphia, because they want it to be a road. There are guys. Josh Sweat has played slightly more than, and I'm looking it up real quick, slightly more than Hassan Reddick. Now the Eagles don't want to use him as much as they have, and that was not their plan at the beginning of the season. But there are plenty of edge rushers that play more than the Eagles had. And some play Max Crosby, he doesn't leave the field. And he might be the best edge rusher in football. In some places, TJ Watt, he never leaves the field. Daniil Hunter, he never leaves the field. Alex Highsmith,
and Christian McCaffrey almost never leaves the field. So you're going to compare the Eagles to other organizations. Well, we could do the same thing with running back.
Well, I'm saying there are certain positions that are rotational and certain positions that aren't, quarterback being most notably. Edge rushers kind of in between. The Eagles want it to be rotational, but they haven't found players they're comfortable with. And that's, Nolan Smith has not been able to get on the field. They probably would have hoped, and they certainly hoped that Derek Barnett would offer them more. But, for years, they would say the same thing about Fletcher Cox inside. We don't want to play Fletcher this much. And then they would. Why would they? Because they had to.
And they didn't want to take him off the field. And
same thing now with edge rush.
If I'm out on an island by myself, okay. If I'm a Kenny Gainwell hater, sorry, I am. I don't get it. I don't understand. I disagree with their evaluation of Kenny Gainwell is as good, if not better, and he was better last week because they played him more snaps than DeAndre Swift.
They played him more snaps because of the game. If the game was 24-21, DeAndre would have got more snaps.
Again, I'm acknowledging that the Eagles have their view, and their view counts. Mine doesn't count squat one. I'm a foolish YouTube talk show host. But my opinion is there's no game, there's no situation, there is no reason for Kenny Gainwell to play more snaps than DeAndre in any game. I get it. You don't even have to say it, John. But the Eagles think of Kenny. I get that. They do. I disagree. I think they're wrong. Plain and simple.
That's fine.
Put them on the carpet. Nick, you're wrong. Brian Johnson, you're wrong. In my opinion, you're wrong. If you are putting that much emphasis on Kenny Gainwell and what he can do, all things in, pass blocking, catch the ball out of the backfield, break a play, make a chunk play, put it all into one big pot.
Well, then it should be
Gainwell pot.
Then you, and that's a legitimate argument, and that's fine. And we got to get the mic. I apologize, Mike. Then play Boston Scott. The point is, you can't play DeAndre Swift every stinking play of the game. It's got to be Boston Scott. Rashad Penny can't pass block anybody, so it's not going to be Rashad Penny. It's got to be somebody else. All right, if you don't like Kenny Gainwell, you don't like Kenny Gainwell, but you got to have somebody else. And
I would say the same thing. I would say the same thing about defensive ends. Why did Josh Sweat not drop in the draft because he was an injured player? Are they not taking a chance by playing Josh Sweat as many snaps as they're playing him a game, John?
Well, he's proven, early in his career, Josh hates this, by the way. Early in his career, they were very cognizant of his injury, which happened in high school. But he's proven.
And college. He was hurt in both high school and college. The massive one was high school.
No, the catastrophic one. And that's the one they're concerned about, was in high school, which things weren't done properly. He could have lost his leg. That's how dangerous that was. So not run-of-the-mill torn ACL or anything like that. He had a Teddy Bridgewater-like injury in high school. So that's the one they're concerned with. Were concerned with, but he's proven he's over it. So they're no longer as much concerned with it. But there's no doubt they would love Nolan Smith to seize more playing time, but they just don't feel comfortable playing him right now.
Mike Gill has patiently sat and waited for us because we were off on a tangent arguing about Kenny Gainwell and usage. So yes, I too will apologize to Mike Gill. Oh my God, I can see his t-shirt. You can't, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till you see the Mike Gill making a statement today with his t-shirt. You'll have to wait and see what that is. Quickie timeout, then come back here. I'm Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed the most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got the Mac and Mac guys. It's a Wednesday. That means we've got Mike Gill from the Sports Bash down the shore. And he gets Johnny Mac up as a guest during the week. So he comes out with us, and we appreciate it whenever he does. We're going back to the Ivies again, Mike. Now, when were you last at Yale? You like the fact that when you're out traveling with your team, you make sure if you're anywhere within driving distance of an Ivy school, you get yourself a T-shirt. When did you pick up the Yale shirt?
I was probably there like 2 summers ago. I went to New Haven on my way to Fenway Park. We stayed around New Haven, got the pizza, and then
Good. New Haven pizza is phenomenal.
Yeah, went to Frank Pepe's on my way to Fenway. So my show gets off the air at 6. We left at 6:15. We stayed around New Haven on Friday night. Woke up in the morning and went to Fenway for a Yankees-Red Sox game. So this had to be
that's a good trip, man. Yeah, Yale and Fenway Park. That's not bad.
On the way home, we went to Newport, Rhode Island. By the way, can you give me a former Eagle Yale draft pick?
Ooh,
Yale draft pick.
Not many of them. 33 players have played in the pros from Yale. By the way, former Bears coach Dick Duran is a Yale.
Okay,
smart guys. Yeah,
you got to give it to me. Who's the Yale draftee? We're
going back to tight end John Spagnola.
Oh, Spags, yeah.
Actually, a Yale guy. I never knew that. Good one, Mike. And oh, by the way, I never would have made it to Yale to get a T-shirt and or the pizza place.
Go ahead. Sorry.
If I'm on 95 going that way, yeah, I'm going to just keep going to Mohegan Sun. You're not going
Mohegan Sun. Yeah.
You're not going to get me to stop for pizza. And if I'm heading that direction on 95, I'm just going until I hit Mohegan.
Speaking of, I believe because it's Eagles Cowboys week. For those who remember Calvin Hill, I believe
one of my
Yale guy. Oh yeah.
Calvin, no, one of my talents in this world used to be, if you gave me a player, I could tell you where he went to college, and I could do that up to.
Yeah, I could do that up to a certain point.
Maybe up to about 10 years ago, where now, I mean, guys are playing at 4 colleges in 4 years, but
it's all
back in the day, NBA, I could nail about 95% of them in back when I was like in college. It would be like a party trick. Watch Mike Gill get every college, bang, throw me a player. Kurt Nymphius, bang,
Kurt Nymphius. By the way, I would have to think, I don't know. I would have to think Calvin Hill's got to be the best NFL player from Yale. I would think. Has there been anybody better?
Except in a Super Bowl, they went to Dwayne Thomas instead of Calvin Hill, which I still could stay because I was a Cowboy fan at the time. Couldn't figure out. Wait a minute, you're going to bench the really good, smart guy for the troublemaking guy just because he had a couple of big. Where did Mr. Mike Gill knows everybody's college? Where did Dwayne Thomas go to college?
That I don't know. It's a little before my time.
California Penal Institute.
You might be right, Johnny Mac. That's funny. All right, Mike Gill, you can chime in on this running back thing. And either I said something that John interpreted incorrectly, or I said something incorrectly yesterday. Putting pass protection in with the ability to make big plays, in with ability to catch the ball, in with everything else. And Kenny Gainwell in a given game gets more snaps than DeAndre Swift. Knowing DeAndre Swift is a player who has a history of injury and the Eagles might be trying to protect him. Do you have a problem with a game that Kenny Gainwell gets more snaps, almost 25% more snaps than DeAndre Swift for the Eagles the rest of the way?
Well, of course, if you're telling me he's got more snaps, you're not playing your best player.
That's kind of the point I was trying to make all day yesterday.
But does nobody bring in the blowout aspect of it?
Well, I mean, in a game, though, that's interesting you bring that up. In a game where we're complaining that why did you leave the starters out on the field this whole time? The one guy he took off the field was maybe the one. Now, he got ripped.
And, by the way, he didn't. That's, again, I got to do it with you, too. They're saying something, and then there's actual evidence. Kenny Gainwell was off the field. DeAndre Swift was on the field. And he got laid out with 2 minutes to play. So they didn't take DeAndre Swift off the field. It wasn't because, we got to protect DeAndre Swift. No, DeAndre Swift was out there, down by 3 touchdowns, and got laid out by Lenore with 2 minutes to play. So the whole, they might have been protecting DeAndre Swift, except the evidence says they didn't. They put him back out there with 2 minutes to go, and he almost got killed.
The entire running back situation all year has been somewhat perplexing to me. Gainwell, literally, I think I can remember one play all season when you were like, okay, he showed a little something there. He has been maybe the most disappointing guy, period. I mean, when they drafted him, you had a guy that played wide receiver in college. He wasn't really even a running back, or he was a running back that they converted to wide receiver because they had so much depth at running back that they had to get him on the field. This team has not used him in that capacity at all. He has no burst. He has no wiggle. He has nothing that this team can use to say, this is why we use him. Your guys' argument I heard, which was he's a better pass protector. By
the way, I don't even know if he is.
And at no point have I watched a game and said, that's why he's out there. That's where he shows his oats. He, to me, has given this team essentially nothing. He adds nothing. So if you're going to give a touch to somebody, you're taking away a touch from someone who can give you explosive plays. Now, I know you can't play Swift the whole time, but, John, what you said is accurate. Boston Scott, in my mind, has more plus plays. Yeah. All right. Has more plus plays that I can recall than Kenny
that's the thing. So here's what I'll ask you guys. If you insert, because I see it in the chat and everybody's like, Gainwell's trash. Gainwell's that trash. They can't get past it. If you replace the name Kenny Gainwell with Boston Scott, who generally everybody likes, they don't get to see him as much, and he plays well against the Giants. And you have the same disproportionate snaps in a blowout game, and that's the key. In a blowout game where you're behind the whole game. In Boston has the same role as Kenny Gainwell. Does anybody make a peep? Does anybody make a peep?
I would.
Because
if you're not playing DeAndre Swift more than any other back you have, I'm sorry, that's malfeasance.
In a blowout game?
It's weird that this week
in a blowout game, down by 3 touchdowns, they had DeAndre Swift on the field, and he almost died. The hit that Lenoir laid on him was
well, you can almost die on any play. I'm not saying they were trying to protect him. I'm saying he has the same role. I'm saying he has the same role as Kenny Gainwell. Pretend Kenny Gainwell doesn't exist. So Boston Scott has the same role as the hurry up,
and he plays at the same level that Kenny Gainwell. All we're doing is changing out a name.
Well, it's the guy. He can play. He's well liked. He's obviously if he plays at the same level of Kenny Gainwell, he's not going to be well
John.
liked. So I'm
one
talking about
one of the reasons Scott, I think is well liked, is it's the classic case of whenever he gets the opportunity, he does his job and he does it well,
generally.
which is, Jody,
so let's assume
like the John Mayberry Jr. Yeah. When John Mayberry Jr. gets a chance to play, he hits home runs. And then when he gets a big chance to play, he sucks.
Stops hitting home runs, right.
So Scott is in the role of when he plays randomly against the Giants all the time, somebody seems to get hurt, he plays and scores 3 touchdowns. So your thoughts of him are all positive. If he had the role that Gainwell had, which was an extended time, you might see that he's not the player that you're seeing in limited time. Yeah. That we don't know because he never really gets that opportunity outside of when someone gets hurt, you're the guy. But when someone's not hurt, you're nothing. You are a complete
the Eagles, and I've been saying it all year, and you know this, Jody. Whisper, the Eagles are not very good at running back. They're not very good at running back because they don't value the position.
I disagree with you. I think DeAndre Swift's been very good.
See, at the beginning of this year, I said Eagle fans are going to overvalue DeAndre Swift based on what he did against you in game 1 last year. He is not that back, and the Eagles are telling you he is not that back. And part of the problem with him is, and they're trying to figure this out. I said this yesterday on my show. He has had monster games, but if you look at the carries, he can't sustain that over the course of the year, and the Eagles know that. So they are picking and choosing. He is way over his touch limit from last year, and his career high he is way over right now. And his problem is he cannot stay healthy. He has had games where he has had 25 carries, and the Eagles are saying we cannot give him 25 carries a game. So they are trying to find a balance here. The problem is the guy they're trying to balance him in is giving you nothing. And there's a little bit
that I have no problem with that argument. There are 59 running backs graded by PFF right now. 59. Guess where Kenny Gainwell is?
No idea.
60.
59.
He's last.
59. Now, guess where DeAndre Swift is?
Probably not much higher.
Oh, I'd say much higher. He's got to be in the top half.
47.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen, I would have bet at top half.
Yeah.
Swift has had a couple of flash games and moments, but if you look at the whole pie, it's Minnesota, Tampa Bay. He played well against Buffalo. Not a lot in the middle of that chunk there where he really played well. I mean, he has a lot of games of under 4 yards a carry. They don't use him as a receiver at all. I mean, they got this guy, and everyone's excited. He's a Philly guy, and then he played against the Eagles late. We always remember what the guy does against your team. He had 150 yards against us last year in week 1, and you remember that. He didn't do that the rest of the year combined.
I get that. I'm like, because we just saw the best running back in football. And it's unfair to compare anybody, but the same thing happened last year with Miles. If Miles is in Carolina, Miles is a disaster. On this team, he was great. He was a Pro Bowl running back.
Monday, if Miles was here, would the running game be better right now?
Be the same, probably somewhere in the same realm.
See, the perplexing thing to me is you have Swift, and he has his role, and he's got the burst, he's got the speed, and he shows it from time to time. The problem is the Eagles I think, are wary of his carries. The question is, and this goes back to, I hate to bring Penny back up, but you signed him before you got Swift. What was your view of him when you brought him in before? Like, was he going to be the guy and then Swift became available and you got him and he fell off the map? Because to me, he would be a complementary style of back to what Swift offers. Gainwell is a similar type of back of what Swift offers, but lousier. So you have two guys who essentially
That's a good way to put it, by the way.
You have two guys who essentially do the same, want to play the same style, as opposed to, hey, we have Swift. He's fast. He's quick. He's got the moves. Boom. We'll use him for 15 carries. And then the other 10 to 12, we're going to give to the big guy and let him kind of pound and wear it, guys. You're giving the complimentary touches to a non-complimentary talent.
Yeah, but they think he is. And John, you had the transcript early. If you still have it, I'd appreciate you punching it up real quick from
what
Brian
he
Johnson
said yesterday made no sense. We have to have patience. What do you mean patience? You had 6 carries. What kind of patience is that? And 3 of your carries, 3 of your 6 came on the first drive of the game.
Yeah. Jason Kelsey was very honest after the game. Now, Jason's very hard on himself and obviously hard on the offensive line as a whole because they're very good. And he said flat out, no play caller in the world is going to keep running the football the way we were performing. So, part of that is certainly defending his guy, but he's just an accountable guy. But
this is they ran 24 plays their first 2 possessions.
Yeah.
24. They scored 6 points. They're up 6-0. They ran 24 plays and killed about 12 minutes off the clock.
Right.
And in that, they ran the ball half the time on that first drive. They went down the field to kick field goals. What happened to me was they got down 7-6 after controlling and dominating that game.
Yeah.
And every week when we talk about how do you beat the Eagles, you've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to do things you don't want to do. And the Eagles got uncomfortable and bailed. They said, we are nickel and diming down the field and we're losing. And I think they panicked and said, we got to get back into this game. And they just started taking shots down the field. And the next thing you know, they were down 14-6. And the next thing you know,
I think that's what the coach meant by patience instead of panic. If you're going to describe it as panic, which is pretty accurate, no, we can't be panicked. We got to be patient. We got to stick with the running game. So I'm not sure why you didn't understand the point that the OC was making, because I did. But, John, if you got the transfer, did anybody ask him about Penny when they were talking about Gainwell? Did at any point that Penny's name never came up? It's a legit question, and I'd like it asked to both he and Sirianni, because you'll remember last year, out of nowhere, out of the blue, Nick Sirianni would bring up, and Trey Sermon looks really good in practice. Man, is he giving us good practice run. And he would never put him in a game. He had no chance to ever play. Yeah. But just every 6 weeks, he'd offhand, not ask a direct question about Sermon. He would just go to the book of Sermon. Has he done that once?
No.
Either the offensive coordinator or the coach referenced Rashad Penny out of the blue once this entire year?
Not once. And
I'm at every single question. Why the hell did you sign this guy? Why did you bring him in? How freaking bad has he been in practice and you can't even think about using him?
I'm surprised he's still here.
I ask that question all the time. And I know I'm not saying to John, you guys get like one question in these things. So I know most of the times this is what I'm writing about. I got blah, blah, blah. But I would be much more understandable as the Penny situation. If someone said, you know what, right now, he's not blocking. He doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the burst. He's not the same player. You have a guy who is inactive, on game day inactive, who his last 2 seasons, now I know he's had a lot of major injuries, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just watched him and said, he's not the same guy. The last 2 years he played, the dude averaged over 6 yards a carry, not once, but twice. And in his career, when he's healthy, he averages about 5.5 yards per carry. He's one of the most explosive backs in the league. Now, if you told me, someone asked him, hey, Nick, Rashad Penny averaged over 6 yards a carry the last 2 years in Seattle. Is there any reason why he can't get on the field? Well, he doesn't have the same burst that he had in Seattle. Okay, now I don't think he's going to give you that answer, but he might give you something between the tea leaves here to tell you why.
Yeah, Nick doesn't do that, believe me.
And you're playing Kenny Gainwell, who, quite frankly, is 60th out of 59. He ain't 59, he's 60.
Like Doug Peterson did that once to us, and it was phenomenal. It was one of my favorite moments because rarely do you see a coach that honest. And he was talking about Jay Ajayi when he came back, not Jay Ajayi during the Super Bowl.
Right.
When he came back, he left to Miami, came back. And we just asked him out of the blue at one point, and it was off the record, but he ultimately talked about it, so I can talk about it. And he said, "He's got nothing left. There's nothing left." I think Nick would never do that. Nick would never do that, but actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got anything left. You're looking at Julio Jones. This guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah. I don't know if he's got anything left. These guys don't stay. I tell Jody all the time, these guys don't stay in a stasis because Shaq Leonard was a 3-time All-Pro. You ain't getting the 3-time All-Pro. Hopefully you get something.
Still mystifying to me.
Yeah.
The Shaq Leonard.
We got to get, because we went over. I apologize again, but we got to get this to you at Mike Gill Show, ESPN, South Jersey, Sports Bash, David Carr yesterday. Now, I don't know what to think.
I had to mute David Carr on my X.
I don't know what to think of this. This is so ridiculous. I mean, Jalen Hurts is getting a bit of a pass. He had a bad game. Let's be honest. And we're not talking about it. And that's probably Jody and my faults as well. We're giving way too much talk about the running back, but the quarterback didn't play well. And the quarterback's far more important than freaking Kenny Gainwell or DeAndre Swift. And rewatching the game, there were a number of throws that were there, and he just didn't pull the trigger for whatever reason. I don't know if he didn't trust it, if he didn't trust Jack Stoll or Albert O, because these guys aren't playmakers. But there were throws to be made on a handful of occasions, and he's just holding on to the football, similar to what he was earlier in his career. Now, David Carr goes out and says he should be benched for Marcus Mariota, of all people, assuming Marcus Mariota is going to process quick. That's not even his game, number one. Marcus isn't a pure pocket passer who's going to process quickly like Brock Purdy and get the football out on time. Now, he did mention the injuries as well, but from my perspective, he passed the concussion protocol. He ditched the sleeve after the bye on his knee. Everybody's banged up. Nobody should know that better than David Carr. He almost got killed in Houston. That's what ruined his career, evidently in bad, bad takes.
Still lingering concussions.
Yeah.
20 years later.
What do you make of this? Just hot take world or
let me ask this question. Did you take it as he's saying Hurts isn't 100%?
Yes.
Sit him and rest him until he gets, because he's not going to ever be 100% if you keep playing him. I don't think he was saying bench him because Mariota's better. Right. I think what he was trying to say was, why don't you sit Hurts so he can get to 100%?
But who's 100% in game 13?
Nobody, probably. But I'm not defending the guy because I think, he's trying to, he's saying this in a way that makes it. But I think what he was trying to say poorly was, look, this guy's not 100%. You're seeing his play has tailed off a little bit. Why not play Mariota, who has won games in the NFL? And, I mean, quite frankly, you're playing the Giants, Arizona, and the Giants.
No, he said this week. He didn't say, go beat Jalen.
No. I know that,
and then
Jody.
We'll pick it up. So
I know that, but I think he was saying
the only thing in question is this week. You can get to the Giants and the Cardinals when you get to the Giants.
Well, let's pretend he's right and Jalen's not 100%. And you think Marcus Mariota gives you a better chance to beat Dallas than Jalen Hurts?
And that's the problem. I think even Jalen right now playing, as you mentioned, I did not think I watched a lot of the all 22. Yeah, I mean, he had a terrible game in terms of what he saw on that field. It looked like he was playing backyard football, waving guys all over the place. It felt like he was waiting for stuff there that was just not, the people, the offensive line must have been looking around like, yo, what's going on back there? Like, deliver the football already. He did not play well. I think what Carr was trying to say was, if he's not 100% healthy, if you want to get him back to 100% healthy to have the best chance to win a Super Bowl, you might have to lose the battle to win the war, meaning you got to sit him for a couple weeks, let him heal back up so that he goes, much like last year where he sat for 2 games, with that ankle problem. Instead of trying to push it, now he played that Giant game because they actually needed it. But I don't think they wanted to play
by the way, David Carr and Mike Gill, they need all the games from here until the end of the season.
Yeah.
As of right now, they need every game.
Well,
it could change, but as we sit here today, they need every game. So Marcus Mariota doesn't see the field unless Jalen Hurts' leg is in a cast.
Okay, real quick. If they lose the game this week, they will still be in the lead in the division. And if they tie Dallas, they will win that tiebreaker at 14-3 and 14-3.
If both teams win out, yes.
If both teams win out the rest of it. Now, Dallas has a much more difficult schedule the rest of the way. They play Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. I forget where they play. Washington at the end?
Yeah, Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
They play Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, Washington. Philadelphia will play Seattle, New York, Arizona, New York. So if you both win out there, you will win the division. The number 1 seed would be the one in peril. And San Francisco, they have Baltimore coming up. They have a game with Seattle at the end. So,
by the way, I think this is a sneaky game for San Francisco because I think, you talk about trap games. Now, it is at home, but Seattle almost beat Dallas at home. Seattle's not a bad team.
Seattle's interesting, and the Rams are starting to come on pretty strong here, and they're going to be playing for what's that?
I'm not as big on the Rams, but they're playing.
They're going to be playing for a wild card berth. So, it's not the Rams team that the Eagles saw earlier in the season. This is a team that has been coming on, playing much better, and they're going to be in a wild card contention. So, it's going to be interesting. You're right, Jody. I mean, they're going to have to, if they lose this game to Dallas. Right, you have no margin for error, and if you want to win the number 1 seed, you're probably going to need some help the rest of the way.
Right, and you can't play for help from someone else. You can't do less. No, you're going to do less yourself and hope for somebody else to pick up the pieces for you. Sorry, David Carr. I get what he was saying about protecting players and get them to 100%. No, winning games, giving your best shot week in, week out with your best quarterback outweighs everything else at this stage.
If you sit him for 2 games and he gets to 100%, he probably comes back in and gets banged up again. It's the NFL, David Carr. You got sacked 70 freaking times.
Well, the Eagles last year, I don't think they wanted to play Jalen in that last game. But they didn't. So I think in their mind is, you know what, we would like to get this guy. Now, I don't think they're thinking about that at all.
You'd love to in week 18. And
they're not thinking about that at all. But it'll be interesting if they win this game against Dallas. Now they'll have that little cushion in the division. Then Seattle next week. How they would manage those last 3 games. Now, that may have changed because of the loss against San Francisco, but you're talking about 3 games in the division that may or may not have a lot of impact.
I'd rather have Jalen Hurts off week 18 than week 14. And Carr is suggesting 14's a time to get him healthy. No. I keep playing, and hopefully you're in a position where week 18, game 17, you don't need it. That would be the best play. Mike Gill, we always appreciate it when you come on. How many of the Ivy Leagues do you have left that you haven't touched on? You've given us 4 or 5.
I've been to Princeton. I've been to Brown. I do not have a Brown shirt, by the way. I've been to Yale.
I have many a brown shirt. I can lend you one if you need one.
Thank you. I have been to a handful of them. So I think I've been to Harvard before, but I don't have a Harvard shirt. But yeah, Yale was my last one. I've been to Yale twice, actually, mostly for the pizza.
Very good. Just keep going to Mohegan Sun.
I saw people in the chat. Frank Pepe's, he said he went to Modern. I've been to Sally's and I've been to Modern. And Modern and Frank's, yes, I would say pretty comparable. I'm more Frank's than I am Modern, for that guy in the chat there.
All right. The pizza stylings of New Haven, Connecticut. Mike Gill, always a pleasure. Thank you, bud. We'll punch you up again next week. Mike Gill from the Sports Bash down the shore, 97.3 ESPN Radio. All right, McMullen, McDonald, Mac guys coming on back We still got plenty to do, including talk to one Double B, the return of Double B. Barrett Brooks going to join us in about 15 minutes. Stay right there.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac here on Birds 365. Appreciate you guys streaming in. We got a nice chunk of streamers as of right now. Hit the like button. Hit the like button because you like Mike Gill.
They like when we argue, and they like Mike's pizza takes, as I gather. There's some wild comments today, Jody.
Love his pizza take. I gotta mock him for his choice of T-shirts. Yeah, Ivy League. Yeah, like Mike Gill's an Ivy Leaguer. That's me. That's like me being an Ivy Leaguer. Come on, you can't.
Got an IQ of 173.
You can't begin to pull that off. I can't begin to pull that. It's decorative if you're putting on a Yale T-shirt. No chance, no shot. But we love Gill. All right, Johnny Mac. We talked so much about the offense in the first couple.
Yeah, you know who's happy? Sean Desai is happy.
He's not going to bite a bullet here, nor are you, McMullen. Because I got to thank my guy, Shio Kapadia. I saw a tweet that he put up yesterday. He said, after go back and watch the game over again on the defensive side of the ball, that he got out his stopwatch and timed it out. That Brock Purdy supposedly, the defensive line can't get that. Brock gets it out of his hand too fast. It's irrelevant. You take the defensive line completely out of it. 2.85 seconds. Not even close to what Sam Howell did to them earlier this year. Howell was like almost scraping under 2. Purdy was a hell of a lot closer to 3 seconds per average time of the ball in his hands. And, oh, by the way, he put up the numbers that he put up. So the fact that the Eagles D-line didn't get there when they were just 4, I think does say something. Cover and rush and cover. I know they go hand in hand, but we almost always start with rush first, rush and cover. And then we say cover and rush. There's a reason for it. It starts with the defensive line, and they did not do their job on Sunday. And oh, by the way, this was the other half of Shields' tweets, which I thought was great. Eagles on the blitz. John, you want to take a guess how many plays the Eagles?
Man. Now,
you want to take a guess on how many plays they blitzed on Sunday against the 49ers?
I believe, and I don't have it up, I believe Purdy was 10 of 11 against the blitz. I believe that was the final.
10 of 11 for 213 yards,
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 7 first downs, and the Eagles got exactly 0 sacks with the blitz.
Yeah.
So our boy Seth, we all love Seth, but Seth lives and dies with the blitz every single week. You're on the post game show, and they blitzed 11 times, which is not a bad number. Not only didn't they get home, they got abused when they blitzed. The 49ers made them pay a price when they blitzed. And the blitz is the extra guy plus your 4 defensive down linemen. They didn't do diddly on Sunday against the 49ers. And the evidence is that it wasn't all just because Brock Purdy took a step and a half and he got the ball out of his hands. No, they didn't get home.
Well, he did get rid of the ball quickly. Yes.
2.5 is not outrageously quick, John.
Look, their whole offense is based. Look, I get it. There's a famous quote. I wish I could get, and I love Shield. Don't get me wrong, but
I love Shield because he's spitting facts.
Well, yeah, but and that's why there's you can manipulate numbers to tell a narrative if you want to. So I'm trying to. Who said it? God damn it. Anyway, there's 3 kinds of lies: damn lies, and statistics. There's a famous saying by, I think it was Mark Twain, Samuel Clement, but if it's not, I apologize. On second view, Milton Williams, for instance, did not have a good game. The first quarter of the Eagles were great, but they were only out there for 6 plays. Defensively, I'm talking about defensively. They were great. And generally, from that point forward, they got pretty much shut down, which I agree with. And San Francisco did a good job. You got, number one, you got to tip your hat to the other team and say, on paper, what looked like a bad matchup for them, except for Trent Williams. And Trent Williams handled Josh Sweat as we expected him to, and handled him pretty easily. But that's a Hall of Fame player. The other 4 guys, the Eagles needed to do a better job with. I don't think there's any question about that. But again, when you manipulate, like, I can turn back and say, well, 315 passing yards, 214 yards after catch. So everything's near the line of scrimmage. Nick Morrow's missing tackles, and not just Nick Morrow. Other people are involved, but PFF blamed Nick Morrow for everything. He was the whipping boy this week, and he had a very poor game. But the point is, you're getting the ball out. Everything's underneath. Everything's over the middle, which is smart because that's where the Eagles have struggled. And if Hassan Reddick doesn't get home, if Josh Sweat doesn't get home, and the Eagles knew going in, they weren't going to get the typical performance from Josh Sweat. I think, ironically, probably the 2 best the 2 best defensive front people were the 2 old guys, Fletcher, who didn't even practice all week, and Brandon. So you start looking at what happened to Reddick. Milton had his worst game maybe ever. And
Davis and Carter did nothing.
Yeah, Davis and Carter. And people talked about how many reps they played the week prior and how many defensive snaps. And to the Eagles' credit, they didn't use that as an excuse, by the way. That's more of I've seen that from the fan base a lot. But yeah, Jordan did not play well. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter certainly did not play.
to the level we're used to seeing him playing, which is off the charts.
By the way, you have to start talking about one thing I did see, and I forget who brought it up first, is this is the rookie wall, right? I mean, this is about the number of games you play in college. And not only that, now Georgia would play typically a little bit more, but he didn't play a lot of reps at Georgia because of how talented they were. So maybe you have to start looking at the rookie wall, or maybe it was just they played so much the week before, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's fair to say they did not do what we expected them to do against what is on paper a big advantage for them. I think that's fair to say. I think it's unfair to say, San Francisco was just not getting the ball out, because that was their whole game plan. Their whole game plan was, let's get the ball to our playmakers in space. And by the way, it was a hell of a game plan.
Right. But, and I said this yesterday, it bears repeating. It wasn't like this came out of left field. When we were analyzing the game prior to, if you picked the Eagles to win, and one of the reasons why was the San Francisco 49ers line, son Trent Wilton against Trent Williams against the Eagles defensive line, you had to know that Purdy's going to get the ball out quickly. So if you were giving the Eagles a big advantage in that area, you did so into the teeth of, well, Purdy's going to get it out in under 3 seconds. How dominant could the Eagles be in that area if Purdy wasn't going to give you the chance to do that?
Yeah, and that's why I criticized.
If you believed it was going to be a major advantage for the Eagles, and then it turns out not to be, was the back seven worse than the front four? Yes, of course. But the front four didn't do what they were supposed to do, at least per those who thought the Eagles had a chance to win the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's very fair to say, but I'm still going to lean more towards the back seven. I mean, the back seven was a disaster. But yeah, they needed to win the game up front. And again, it's not about getting home, because, and I think this is the perfect game to identify what I've been talking about all year, and really since we started this show, because every single sack that Jalen Hurts took was not the fault of the Eagles' offensive line. It was just him holding on to the football.
And or slipping.
Yeah, and or slipping. And I think Brock got sacked twice, and it was the Hassan Reddick one was just tremendous pressure right away, but it didn't continue. It was early in the game. And I forget the second one. But I think it was near the line. They were both near the line of scrimmage.
They got 2 yards on each sack.
Yeah.
2 sacks for a total of 4 yards.
So, I mean, Jalen's taking sacks for 16 yards because he's trying to extend the play, and he's getting sacked for 2 yards. So it was just a bad performance all around. And that was an advantage. So maybe it's more disappointing that the defensive front didn't take advantage of what looked like a good matchup on paper. But boy, I got a tough time getting past that back seven.
And Shields' other stat that he just threw in quickly, quarterback, there's sacks. You think I put too much of an emphasis on it. I stand by that. There's pressures. There can be pressures that guys complete 80-yard passes. There can be pressures that turn into pick sixes coming the other way. Championship game, Minnesota. I get it. They're pressures are pressures. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're irrelevant. And then his quarterback hits, which is at least something tangible. You made the guy pay a price, certainly on a sack, but you can hit him after he gets rid of the ball, make him pay a price. The Eagles had 2 quarterback hits on the first possession of the game, the first 3 plays. They hit the quarterback twice. They hit him once the entire rest of the game. 1 quarterback hit the entire rest of the game after the first 3 plays. That's not good. Defensive line. All right, you can't get home. He got rid of it real fast. He got it out of his hand. You couldn't get your head up. They didn't even hit him. They didn't even make him pay after he got rid of the football. The defensive line did not play well. Didn't play as badly as the back seven, but the defensive line did not play well against San Francisco this past week. All right, we see that he's waiting for. Is that Barrett Brooks? Is that really Barrett Brooks waiting to join the Mac and Mac guys on Birds 365? Where's the brush? He's got to be brushing because I remember when I used to do the show with Barrett, you would think, oh, he always be brushing out the beard. He doesn't have the brush yet.
He's got it. He's looking for it. He's getting it.
All right, we'll get him to brush the beard for us when he joins us next. Barrett Brooks here on Birds 365. Please stick around.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got John McMullen, Jody McDonald, and the very well coiffed. Yes, he was combing out the beard right before he came on with us. Barrett Brooks jumping back with us here on Birds 365. I knew Barrett was ready to go when he was cleaning out his beard before he would fill in for John McMullen on the show. Double B, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. Doing a great job on NBC Sports Philadelphia. I need your offensive line intake, number one. And I used to do this to Barrett. It's just so unfair. Offensive line. I try to get in his wheelhouse, and he knows everything. Why the hell you keep asking about the offensive line, Jody?
Well, that's going to be my first question.
That's my bad. Well, I'm going for it, so I might beat you.
Uh-oh, Barrett's mic is not working. Zander tells us. Oh, yeah, we can't hear you. Let's see. Hopefully we figure it out.
His name keeps changing.
Can't hear you. Zander, maybe
what happens?
Maybe bring Barrett down and try to get him back up.
See what happens when you don't do a show on the stream in a long time. You forget how to set it up.
No, he put it on mute. I saw him put it on mute and put it back on, and it still wasn't working. So we might have a bigger issue. Damn it. Damn. I'm excited to get Barrett back.
Get Barrett up. His beard looks good. And but we can't actually hear him. And that's as good as he looks. Let's be honest. We really want to hear what Barrett has to say more than anything else.
Damn it. I wanted to ask him about Trent Williams because I wanted, that dude is just different. Well, we got one here in this city, Lane Johnson. The same thing. I'm like, as bad as that game was, Jody, and there's so many outrageous comments about fire everybody. Jesus, this team's 10-2, people. Calm the hell down. Yeah, it was a terrible game. You know who didn't have a terrible game? Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson
never has a terrible game.
Completely shut down Nick Bosa. Again. And that's there we go. We got him back. Good to see you, buddy.
Nice to see you guys too, man.
Yeah, talking offensive line, that's where Jody was going. So I'll let him get in. But I was just talking about Lane shutting down Nick Bosa and then Trent Williams, dude. Where is he in your pantheon of left tackles? Because he is from somebody on the outside. That dude's unbelievable.
You got the two best tackles in the league we saw on display this last Sunday. Unbelievable players. In fact, I say Trent Williams has probably been the most dominant tackle since probably Munoz.
I was going to go. You go Munoz because that's how far back you got to go.
Yeah, I mean, even better than what I saw from guys like Tony Baselli. I mean, Trent Williams is dominant. Lane Johnson is dominant, and there's two different contrasting styles. You just got a street fighter bar strike with Williams, and then you got a technician who's just so technically sound with Lane Johnson. Understanding he's got to get out there first, set up, and be ready to battle at the point of contact. And then you got a guy, he's just bringing everything in the kitchen sink to the point of contact with Williams. I mean, it was the best game I've seen out of two tackles in a long time. I mean, them two actually beat up on the guys they played against. It was a great game with those two. But I get all geeked up with those type of those.
I'm with you. I've never seen Lane got Bosa with a spin move, Barrett. Did you see that? I've never seen that before. Yeah.
No, he spun, then counter spun, and then finished the play.
Yeah,
which was disheartening to me because when you look at the way this offensive line played, I mean, they were averaging like 3.8 seconds a pass play.
I know,
and we still didn't get anybody open. Which goes to show,
Jalen had all day, and he for some reason he didn't want to pull the trigger. Like Jack Stoll was open at one point. Albert was open at one. Now these aren't playmakers. Maybe he doesn't trust them. I don't know, but something was off with Jalen Hurts.
Well, Smitty was open on that on the exact same play we're talking about with the spin, counter spin, still get his hands inside, slow him down. Smitty was open in the initial of the play. The play was supposed to go. It was designed for him, and he just didn't get the ball to him. He should have just thrown it before all that stuff even happened. And that's we talk about being able to counter somebody's counter. Look at the 49ers. The 49ers went out there the first two drives and try to drop back pass this Eagles defense. And what happens? 3 and out, 3 and out. So what does Shanahan do? He counters that by going out and then running play action, not to try to pull the linebackers up with the run or fake the run, but it's a solid protection when you use play action because you leave a tight end in and you leave a running back in, and then they can leak out later on if they need them for, to dump it off. Well, that's what they did. They brought more blockers in and then leaked those guys out, and they got lost in responsibility of the defense because, number one, they had all that window dressing, guys going in motion, everything else. But then they turned back around and used them as outlets for Purdy, which allowed that defensive line not to be effective because, number one, they had got chipping on them, double teaming them. And then when they finally did get to the quarterback, they had an outlet for him because those guys stopped blocking and turned around, became an outlet and dump off pass for him.
All right, maybe you partially answered the question I was going to ask, which is fine. Prior to the game, advantage in the matchups, Eagles, their defensive line against the 49er offensive line for anyone not named Trent Williams. That's where the Eagles should have been able to score points, take advantage of the Didn't happen. More credit to those other four nameless schmoes who were the worst players on the San Francisco offense, or what the hell to the Eagles defensive line who didn't make any plays? We'll cut Sweat some slack because he's up against the Hall of Famer. How about the rest of the Eagles defensive line? Give credit to the opposition, and did they play over their heads, or did the Eagles underachieve on the D line?
I think it's more so a little bit of game planning.
A little bit of both, but make a call. One more than the other. Which way?
Game planning. You know, they ran stuff in which they had extra blockers. And when you do that, it's hard to get your quarterback, get pressure on them.
Then who in the secondary? I'm sorry to interrupt, Barry. Who in the secondary? Where were they playing? In the parking lot?
No, Slay was.
San Francisco's keeping extra guys in the block, and yet every pass Purdy threw was to a wide open guy. How the hell do you not get up and play on somebody if you know they're keeping extra guys in the block?
Because I mean, once again, we got our game plan. They sent 4. They rushed 4 and dropped everybody else.
Yeah.
They dropped everybody else. They had everybody in coverage. And since they did that, they weren't able to generate enough pressure on Purdy, number one. And then they, with all the window dressing, all the motions, all the, going across the formation, they confused those guys in the secondary. Like Blankenship didn't have a clue. He was lost in the sauce the entire game.
Yeah.
They were trying to play a zone, and they weren't matching up in the zone. Guys were running scot-free through the zone because they didn't know what their responsibilities were. They didn't use their fundamental techniques, their fundamental understanding of the play to help them out. And they got away from doing what they do best, and that's taking one play at a time. Instead of them trying to just do their job, they were trying to do everybody else's job and didn't get their job done. As a middle linebacker, you got to look at the triangle. You go from you to the 2 guards to the quarterback. Well, you can see Morrow's looking everywhere but that. You look at the slot corner. I mean, slot corner comes up, Roby comes up, and has a chance to really open up and kill Purdy on the play. But instead, he bounces off of him like, oh, man, he's a pretty big guy. Or, he's a little tougher than I thought, and doesn't bring down a quarterback. Come on now. Come on.
Yeah. He's bigger than people realize, I think, Brett, for whatever reason.
But you can't sell him short. You got to go out there and try to annihilate who's ever in front of you. And he didn't do it.
But let me ask you this, Barrett, because I think you're right 100%. But how does Sean decide not to know this? We know coming in, San Francisco is going to try to get the ball out. Everybody tries to get the ball out against this Eagles team because they're a little bit wary of the pass rush, typically. We know they're playmakers. You want to get the ball to McCaffrey and Samuel in space. Slay treated Brandon Ayuk like he was Randy Moss in his prime. He's playing in the parking lot.
Right.
And then George Kittle's George Kittle in the middle of the field. They knew this coming in. How do they not know the ball's coming out? They're 214 yards after catch. They're not tackling.
They did.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Fundamentally, they just didn't tackle. I saw the back and forth with Slay and
Ayuk.
Huh?
Ayuk or
no, going between Slay and Seth Jordan.
Oh, Seth. Yeah, Seth.
Seth talked about their tackling.
Oh yeah, not tackling. Yeah. Now they're not afraid. I agree with Slay. They're not afraid, but they just didn't.
But they didn't do it though. You didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, you didn't come up and tackle. You weren't doing that. I mean, just little things. They were running like a cover 3 shell, and they had Brown inside the box. In that coverage, he has the flats. That's his responsibility. But he sees the receiver, Brandon Ayuk, go through the middle of the field. Go past middle field. He locks onto him. Why are you locking on to him? He's not your responsibility. Once he goes inside, he's not yours. You got to get to your flat area. And what happens on that play? They run a play action, and Kittle goes out to the flat area. They dump it to Kittle. Kittle gets like a 20-yard run on the play. If he'd have been out there in his responsibility instead of latching on to a guy that's not his in the area that's not what he's designed to be at, he could have been there for at least a 6-yard tackle at least. He'd have tackled him instead of the 20 yards he gets and they go down and score on the play. Those are the little things, not being fundamentally sound. In cover 3, you've got flats. Get your butt to the flat area. Don't try to be the hero. It's a design play. If somebody's leaving, there's going to be somebody else to replace that guy. And understanding that in your responsibility, that's how you play fundamentally sound. Just do your job. And it looked like Morrow was beat on the play. It wasn't even Morrow's man. In fact, Morrow should have had the guy that was coming across in his area. He should have latched on to him. And then Brown should have went out to the flat area, and he'd have had Kittle. So those little things that are happening that they're just not being responsible for it. Oh, by the way, those receivers were pretty damn physical also. They were blocking them. In fact, they were I saw Blankenship get put on his ass a couple times.
Oh, man, did you see Kittle get the 2 blocks? Kittle's a problem, man.
He is a serious problem. But I will say this, in saying all of that, now they have to rewind. Now this team has to go out and say, all right, we're not as good as we thought we are. Now we have to get back to fundamental football. Get back to what made us the great team we know we are. Crossing our T's, dotting our I's, making sure there's a little more film study, understanding what your job is, not worried about anybody else's job is. Those are all fundamental things that this team has to go back and correct. Yes, you can correct those things while you're winning, but do you really put a lot of attention on it? Do you really think that, oh, well, I'll be able to do this? Or do you just go out there and do it? And at this point, they didn't go out there and do it against this team. Yes, that's a great team they played against. And if you ask me what their ranking is 1A, 1B, not a 1 and 2. They're not the best team in the NFL, but they're not. I think they're on an even line with the Eagles. You know what I'm saying? I think they are. Even though they beat us, I still think the Eagles have a dominant roster. And man for man, the Eagles have more talent. It's just Shanahan out-coached us in this game. But the worst thing about this, they out-physicaled us and made us get away from our brand of football and play into their hands. That's what they did against this team.
All right, Barrett, I'm going under over here with my next question. The number is 17.5. And the question is number of targets for CD Lamb. When the Eagles played the Cowboys previous this year, they threw it to him 16 times. 16 times to one player. And John said after the game, I would have given it to him 20 times. They can't cover him. Why not just keep feeding them? I said, yeah, but they're never going to do 16 again. Since the Eagles game, 16 targets, 14 targets, and this past week against Seattle, 17. They threw it to him one more time. You don't target a guy 18 times in a game. That's the number. 17.5. Got to get to 18. Will the Cowboys throw it to CD Lamb 18 times this week? I'm going over. How about you?
I'm going with the over also because he's unstoppable. At this point, his understanding where he fits in that offense is impeccable. The relationship that he has with Dak is getting him the ball. Let me put it like this. He had 191 yards against this Eagles defense. 191. He wanted that game to last forever because he was just unstoppable. Mm-hmm. Now, they were yards in which he wasn't scoring, but still, he was driving. They could dump it to him. He was running all over the field, especially the interior. He got most of the stuff on the interior, not on the outside, but then the interior of the defense, matching up against our guys that we feel as though aren't up to par. Kevin Byard has
but that was an Eli Rick Sidney Brown game. So at least you have Bradley Roby, which, it's not great, but he knows how to play. Whereas Eli and Sidney are young players playing out of position against CD Lamb. That was
191 yards.
Yeah,
and then Ferguson had his best game against us also. I think Ferguson had like 61 yards.
Yeah, Ferguson had a great game as well.
He
You're
had
right.
70. Yeah, I think he had 71 yards.
You and I talked about this last year all the time. I'm not a big fan of this defensive scheme.
Yes.
Now, it was a hell of a lot better. I'm going to get the Eagles fans riled up. It was a hell of a lot better when Jonathan Gannon was here with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Marcus Epps and company than it is right now. But you mentioned that matchup zone, guys miscommunicating, Sidney Brown, young player, not understanding his responsibility. You got to get a little simplify this for younger players. Now they have Roby now and Byard and Slay and Bradbury. It should be getting better, but it's not getting better. Now, part of that is the competition as well. But man, there's so many miscommunication issues with this particular scheme.
TJ Edwards too, man. I mean,
yeah. I'm
talent.
A huge TJ guy.
Right. He's a homegrown talent, undrafted, and we developed him in our system. You should have gave that young man whatever he wanted because that's where we lack the most experience. That's where we lack the most as far as, playing knowledge in that defense. He understood what his job was and how to play in the middle of that defense. I think that's one of the hardest positions to really bring a guy up to the fold, because they don't value it, number one. They're not going to allocate resources to it, number two. And we need somebody there that's a boss. Now we got somebody coming right now. Will he be able to play? If he's healthy, he's probably one of the best linebackers in the league. But at the end of the day, he's got to be healthy. We got to understand that, Leonard, Shaq Leonard is a baller when he's healthy. There's a reason why he was let go at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But, anything's an upgrade because I like Ellis. Ellis, to me, is a good player, a good future player. But we don't have time right now to groom guys. We need guys to come in and play now. We need guys to be sufficient now at the linebacker position. We are so weak in the middle of our defense that teams are.
But that's what I'm saying. So line up and play cover two. Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah, basically,
it's boring, but guys are gonna not make as many mistakes. You got the front, in theory, and when they start playing better.
Yeah, do your job.
Yeah,
that's it. Make it vanilla. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at basically what the 49ers did to us, it wasn't exotic. It wasn't a lot of blitzes. They rushed 4 guys against us and dropped everybody else, made Jalen Hurts try to beat us in zone coverage. We'll make other quarterbacks do the same thing, beat us in zone coverage. Because as long as you're doing your job in that coverage, that too high zone, if you're doing your job, it's meant to stop whatever you throw. You can throw anything at that, and it's built to stop because you got somebody in that zone. Now, can they match up zone that? You're going to have to do a little bit of that. But at this point, we need to stop the bleeding. We got to get fundamental football as the basis of our defense again. And sometimes, just being vanilla like that and being fundamentally sound, it's how you really generate what you need as far as stopping teams. We have enough up front to pass rush and generate pressure on the quarterback. We have enough up front. And if they start doing all those, run action, keeping blitzers in and keeping people to stop the blitz and everything, we can get past that, because now you got guys in position to make plays in the secondary. But sometimes it's the kiss technique. Keep it simple, stupid. That's it. Just kiss them.
All right, I'll go down the kiss road with you because I think this is pretty simple, but not everybody does. 2-part question. Number one, why do you think the Eagles think that Kenny Gainwell on any given game should get more carries than DeAndre Swift? And if you agree with the Eagles coaching staff on their philosophy that derives to that answer, feel free to say so. If not, what would Barrett Brooks do? This past week, Gainwell carried it more than DeAndre Swift. I'm perplexed by it. Why do you think the Eagles think along those lines? Are they right to?
No. How? We're talking about a guy, one of the most explosive players on the team. Swift, there's no way Swift should be off the field, period. You say we don't have a bell cow back. Well, we need to change that. He's explosive. He can run in between the tackles. When he's given the opportunity to get lathered up and play, that's one of our problems right there. We got the best offensive line of football that can run block just as well as they pass block. But use run block, run block so they can go out there and tee off on people, hit people. Number one, what does it do for you? It keeps their offense off the field. A 3-yard run is not a bad thing. You do that 4 times, you got a first down. So why do we think that, that it's cool to not run guys? And Swift should not have less than 5 carries, not just in the first half, but I'm talking the first quarter, just to set the tone, show them they mean business. They absolutely put teams too high up on the list of being people that can stop their running game when they don't run it. They can run the ball on anybody. This offensive line is built. This would have been a great game for us to run the ball on them, simply because it kind of takes away their strength. Their strength is in the middle of their defense, their linebackers. If they could have gotten Kelsey, gotten Juergens up on their second level and run the ball consistently, they'd have ran all over that defense. But instead, they gave them a little bit of power, and they took advantage of it, and then out-physicaled us up front. Not up front, but out-physicaled us in the run lanes, and then it was over after that. I mean, you had guys, hitting guys, standing over them, and talking trash and everything. And
well, Fred Warner's pretty good. Yeah, I will say this. Now, I saw John Lynch and Howie Roseman talking before the game. Those are the two GMs who probably put together the two best rosters in the NFL, Barrett.
No question.
But it's you look at it, and obviously San Francisco has the luxury Philadelphia used to have, in that they've got a quarterback they don't have to pay like the Eagles had for a while with Jalen Hurts. But they have, if you look at the two positions the Eagles devalue, and from a macro sense, I agree with the Eagles, running back and linebacker. And then you look at San Francisco, and they have the best running back and the best linebacker.
Yeah.
And I mean that literally. The number one running back in this league, Christian McCaffrey, the number one linebacker, all-ball linebacker to me is Fred Warner.
No question.
The Eagles, we're watching Nick Morrow, and I get this DeAndre Swift love. Remember, DeAndre carried the ball 6 times for 13 yards. Kenny Gainwell only carried it 2 times for 5 yards. When they did run it, there was no success. And Jason Kelsey said after the game, Barrett, he was honest. Jason, he said, but he's kind of defending Brian Johnson. He's like, I wouldn't run the ball either. We were having no success, basically.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Jason, I'm throwing a BS flag. He's being a teammate. He's sticking up for his guys. He's doing what Sean Desai did yesterday, taking all the bullets. It was on us. They didn't have Barrett. You can speak to this. You're a former offensive lineman. You got to get a rhythm. You got to be able to build it up. You got to be able to get into a flow. They never gave them a chance to get into a flow. The foreplay, how many did you describe, John? How many rushes did they have?
They had 9 rushes from the running backs for a total
the whole
of
game.
yards.
How do we know if they could or couldn't run the ball that day? You can't but then 9 rushes.
That's the farce right there.
Yeah,
that's the farce right there. If it's the war of attrition when you're running the ball. Yeah. You're gonna run it, and it's not like you're banging your head against the wall. You're running it and you're tenderizing. It's not banging head against the wall. You're tenderizing the defense. All of a sudden, they start getting up a little bit slower. They start reading things a little bit differently from a passing standpoint because they know you're going to come off and hit them in the mouth. It's you get 1 yard here, 3 yards here, 4 yards here, and eventually it starts turning into 6 yards. It starts turning to 10 yards, turning to 12 yards. That's what running the ball does. It's not just automatically going to be all right. You look at the game plan that before they changed their game plan up. Eagles got to do the same thing. You've got to run the ball because when you run the ball, it keeps the ball out of that other quarterback's hands. Until we go back to fundamental football, and that's running the rock consistently, it's going to be an extra long season, and we're going to have teams playing us close. Even the Giants may play us close.
Ooh,
because we don't run the ball with them. It could be a long game for us.
Well, now I'll end it there with you, Barrett. Good to see you again. At bbrooks72 NBCS. You can follow Barrett on X. Twitter does a tremendous job with NBC Sports Philadelphia covering this team. Look, I'm up with you 100%. When you run the ball 9 times to a running back in any game, that's pathetic. You got to run it more. Well, as a player, games have personalities. And they had that first quarter, they dominated, and they only got 2 field goals. If those are 2 touchdowns, I think this is a completely different game. I really believe that. Really believe that.
Absolutely. And it'll be Brock Purdy playing from behind.
Yeah.
He's not used to playing from behind.
And all of a sudden, it was that dichotomy. The first quarter, the Eagles dominated. They had 2 scoring opportunities, 6 points. 49ers dominated second quarter, 2 scoring opportunities, 2 touchdowns. You go into halftime, they get the football back right down the field and score. And then it's 21-6. And they abandon the running game. Should they have? Maybe not to the degree they did, but it's really difficult when you're down 2 scores and you're like, Fred Warner's over on the other side. I mean, what am I going to bang my head in the wall? 2 yards. At that point, So I think the Dom drive, I told this to Jody on Monday, the Dom drive, as I'm calling it, they scored on that drive.
Absolutely.
So Big Dom fired them up. Connor Barwin's giving him high fives. The whole place is cheering Dom as he leaves the field. He gets kicked out, and the defense goes back out there. 5 plays. Bang. Deebo Samuel, 48 yards. I mean, you can't run the ball at that point is all I'm saying. You can't run the ball at that point. And I think a large part of it was how the game's personality. And the defense just didn't hold its water. And that affected the running game.
But Jody, look at this. If you're a zebra, you can't change your stripes. So if you really are a fundamentally sound running team, you can't allow another team to take you off your square. You got to stand in your square. You got to run the ball when you want to run the ball. You set the tone early. Run the rock early. They chose to come out and pass the ball, and I understand because the weak point of that defense was the secondary, and I get it. But
Ward's a good player, though. I love Ward. I think he's
Ward. He gonna shut down whoever's in front of him.
Yeah.
But they got Smitty. They got others that can go out there and play. Like, just to your point, this would have been a great tight end game. Or this would have been Dallas Goedert's one of his best games if he was there, because he'd have been the guy roaming around the middle of that defense, making things happen. Goddard would have been special in that secondary, secondary and where the linebacker level is. He would have been great there, because then they couldn't do everything that they did from a pass rushing standpoint, because they had plenty of time to throw the ball. They just didn't attack the middle of the field. Whenever they attacked the middle of the field with slants, drag routes, and comebacks, you saw how good A.J. Brown looked. They couldn't stop him, but we stopped running routes. We wanted to run routes where we could beat them over the top and get a big play. You can't play big play football all the time. You got to go out there and nickel and dime the defense. And Nick Sirianni said it himself. Well, you can't always think that you can go down there and nickel and dime a team and drive the ball down the field that way. Well, that works. That's a fundamental way you have to think, because number one, it keeps that defense off the field, their defense on the field, keeps our defense off the field, keeps their offense off the field. But number two, it takes the clock down. Number three, this is a physical brand of football when you're doing that.
I heard
we got out physical. We let them dictate tempo to us. They put it on us, and that's the most disheartening thing I saw on Sunday.
I heard you, Douglas, on WIP yesterday describe the 49er DBs as sticky. They were stuck all over the Eagle wide receivers. And then there's Darius Slay, who's playing in the parking lot. Darius, get up and be sticky this week.
Oh, don't call him Darius. You're going to get in Seth's territory. Don't call him Darius.
And Bradbury. Oh, I'm not giving Bradbury a pass. You can be sticky this week too, Bradbury. I've got bent over backwards.
By the way,
before he ever put out an Eagle uniform, I was calling for him to play. And oh, by the way, he hasn't had a great year either. So Bradbury and Slay, both guys, a little stickiness this week against the Cowboy wide receiver.
Interesting note.
Tell him to be sticky.
Interesting note. We now have 2 Dariuses.
They didn't want to be called Darius.
Slay and Leonard. Yeah, and they both hate their first names. Yes. Interesting. Interesting piece of trivia.
We got you covered, Shaq. And we got Barrett Brooks back on with us. I'm Bird Street.
Don't call me Barrett. Call me Pork Chop. Don't call me
Pork Chop. Big Pork Chop. The Big Pork Chop. Barrett Brooks here with us. Now that you were foolish enough to say yes when we asked you on the show, we're going to ask you again, right?
No, no problem. You guys are my guys.
Thanks, Barrett. I appreciate it, bud.
NBC Sports, Philly, Barrett Brooks here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We got to put a bow on the show. Stay right there.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grosinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grosinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, running out of time here on a Walk to Wednesday on Birds 365. John, we only got time for one more question. I know exactly what I want to ask you. And I have to ask it the same way I just asked the Barry, because from time to time I ask you a question and you give me what you think the Eagles are going to do or going to think or going to say. And I'm thinking that you're giving me John McMullen's opinion, what he would do, how he would react. So I'm going to ask you to give me both what you would do if you were in Howie Roseman's chair and what you think Howie Roseman is going to do, because it's a player personnel discussion, not a Nick Sirianni and coaching staff discussion. Percentage chance that Zach Ertz is signed by the Philadelphia Eagles, because it's certainly trending in the wrong direction. I was rooting for it. I was hoping it was going to happen. Howard, you got to give him credit. He's got some ties. He's got some sources. And yesterday he made it pretty obvious. He doesn't think Zach Ertz is coming back there. The last one I remember is Juergens. When Juergens was coming back, seemed to me by most reports and what everybody said, Juergens was going to be back. And Howard came out and goes, yeah, Juergens isn't going to play this week. And he didn't play. So I give Howard credit for that. He's got good sources. He pretty much painted a picture that Zach Ertz is not coming back here. The percentage chance John McMullen thinks Zach Ertz should be back. The percentage chance Howie Roseman will act and bring Zach Ertz back.
Percentage, I would bring him back very low, probably 10%. I mentioned the bit yesterday show. I just don't see the bit with Dallas. When Dallas is going to play this week, make no mistake about it.
Is that 100? Is that 100%?
Yeah, that's 100%.
Okay. Good.
So with him coming back, I don't see a great bit. From the Eagles' perspective, they get a little too enamored with this type of thing. I heard so many names yesterday. It's like they want to turn over the whole roster of the fans. I heard Adrian Amos and Logan Ryan. Amos signed with Houston, by the way. Logan Ryan. I heard Zach, of course, and Ndamukong Suh coming back.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah,
like they need another defensive tackle. What are we we doing here? They're 10-2. They lost one game. Settle down. I don't want to have to play Dallas Goedert. And I heard, who was Tommy? I think it was Tommy Lawler yesterday said, no, you can play Zach Ertz in line. No, you can't. Not with Dallas Goedert out there. You have one guy who's a really good blocker and one guy who's a tremendously better flex receiver. Nick Sirianni doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be forced to make that decision. So
the reason why I disagree with Tommy on that, they had a chance to do that last year.
Yeah.
When they were both on the team together, if they really thought that they could move Zach in and he wouldn't, I don't want to say do a bad job, but not as good a job as Goddard could do as an inline block, they would have done it and they would have kept him. They came to the conclusion that Zach is basically a slot receiver at this stage of his career. They've already made that decision. They don't have to reevaluate that one.
So I just don't see the fit. Now, would I like to have him at Dallas is hurt again? Yes. Then it's whole different. Then you need somebody who can catch a pass. And then I'd say, yeah, now you go from 10% to 90%, basically.
Yeah, but in the meantime, in between time, he signs with another team. You got to factor that into your percentage. He is not only going to give you what he gives you, but also gives you a safety net.
Yeah, the one guy who skated through all this overreaction, happy as a clam yesterday, Michael Clay. Everybody's saying Michael Clay is smart. He's up there. Nick Sirianni's like, we got to do this on offense. We got to do this on defense. Special teams, pretty good. They don't want to mess with their special teams. And I know nobody talks about it. I'm probably the only one in Philadelphia who talks about it, but if you're a backup player, you got to help on special teams, and Zach can't do that.
No, they've had much improved special teams, and Michael Clay should get credit for it. But it's been more because of the young guys on the outside who were getting down and covering and the like. And Zach could find a couple of snaps in the middle of that.
And
line.
Jake Elliott and Braden Mann. Don't forget Braden Mann has settled down.
Man's been good.
He's been darn good. Everything about there. They were bottom 5 in every single ranking, no matter where you put. Now they're top 5. It's been an amazing turnaround for that group.
Give credit to the kicker. And why was Aaron Sipas here? No, we don't want to go down a negative road to end the show. We're up for a show tomorrow. We're up for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll certainly dive head more into the Cowboys.
Who we got tomorrow? We got
tomorrow. We would have who's joining us?
We're hoping to get Jeff Kerr because we missed him.
Carr's in.
Kerr is in. Olivia Reiner's going to come back from the choir as well.
You got Olivia to join us. So Olivia and Jeff Kerr will be with us tomorrow, and then on Friday we got our Cowboy guy, John Machado. Always comes on when the Eagles play the Cowboys. Does a great job, athletic beat reporter. He'll be on with us Friday with Damo as well. So you need to be right here on Birds 365. I'm going to be here the next 2 days. McMullen, you're going to be here the next, well, at least day and a half. You got to go. Is Sirianni Friday?
Oh, always Friday, okay. Nick Sirianni. So
I thought maybe Sunday night they push it back a little bit. No such luck. I don't have to leave as early for Dallas. It's the same time every Friday. All right, just double checking. So you got me
normal one. Yeah, short week. On this is a normal week, even though it's a Sunday night game. Yeah.
All right. So you got me for 4 hours over the next 2 days. You got McMullen for 3 hours over the next 2 days, and you got Bill Colarulo coming up next with the Power Hour. So keep it right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.